Hi there. Today's video is about what I've been working on, and I wanted to give you a peek behind the scenes. Very often I'm asked to go to events and I don't like to go empty-handed, and it's a really good idea to take with me something that I've already made to give people an idea of what I'm capable of, but also my style, because we've all got our own style, right? So I wanted to show you my bit of a mood board going on here. These particular pieces are pieces I've cut of watercolour paper here. I've made them to fit a mount, so I'm just going to get that out to show you. Basically, for custom orders, I find that they look a lot better framed. So I purchased these frames from a very famous, well-known store. And they have acrylic, they're box frames, and they have acrylic fronts instead of glass, which makes them easy to post, and it also makes it possible to make them lightweight and easier to hang. And I did used to do them with glass, but I had a couple of breakages and it really upset me. And also they're heavier to post and the risk is higher, so I stick with these now. But also, ages ago, I realised that every time I wanted to do a new piece of art, I was measuring this bit here, because it's got a lovely beveled mount. I was measuring it and then drawing that with a ruler to make the shape on the watercolour paper that I was going to draw into. And then I had this fascinating breakthrough where I thought, why don't I just measure it, get a piece of card and recycle it, make the window, and then every time I'm going to do a piece of art, lay it on a piece of watercolour paper and just draw the corners. And if you look closely here, that's exactly what I've done before I started work on these. Okay, so that was number one. We always find shortcuts with what we do in due course. So that's my mount. That's my frame, and this is what I do. Now, you'll notice that when I do the watercolour splash, it makes the paper a little bit obviously textured, but also it raises it a bit. Look how it's sitting a bit proud on the board. And what I actually end up doing is getting some really heavy books, another piece of paper on top, and pressing them. So I haven't done that here yet, but they're ready. That's what my next step's going to be. I've also chosen to do floral borders for these because it's something everybody loves, and the event that I'm going to is at a florist. So that is what my thinking was. People that go to florists like floral things. So they're just ahead of being pressed, and I've pencil marked in the painting that I'm going to do, so that it's really precise. Sometimes if I'm doing these a bit more loose, I'll just do it with my brush, which is right here. I'll just do it with my brush, or this one here, which has a really nice tip to it. I'll use one of these to just freehand it, and then I'll be using an ink pen to go round it afterwards. But in this case, I've penciled it in because I want it to, I've got a precise idea of what I want it to look like. And then I'm going to watercolour the flowers in. I'm going to ink them to highlight the delicacy of them. And you see I've already written in the middle here the phrases I'm going to use. I think people do like a sign with something motivational, like an affirmation in it. And in fitting with our mindful practice, affirmations can be really, really strong things to write in calligraphy because they make you think of positive things. So when I do workshops, I take this with me to pass around the room when we're allowed to be back in person again. And in the pages, they're just really short affirmations and phrases. There are no such thing as failure, there's only results. Tony Robbins, oh my God. Imagine opening it at that, one of my favourite big talkers. But I find that if you just pick, sometimes I just ask someone to pick a page at random. by being yourself, you put something wonderful in the world that was not there before. Oh, that's nice. Do you give as much energy to your dreams as you do to your fears? What's your answer to that? I wish that mine was better. I think perhaps I give too much energy to things I shouldn't. So if you have a book of quotes and you fancy just, you know, opening randomly any page, then that can be a really cool mindful practice, just to leave it to fate. But equally, you can go on the web and search for someone that really inspires you and see what they're saying. So this here, mine's are like flowers. They open only when the time is right. I found that on the internet. And this one here is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Now you see, I've added his name into the quote here, which I think is really important if you're going to attribute it to someone. But I only wrote that in very plain little blocks. I did pencil that first because it's around a curve. You'll see here, as per a previous video I did, that I've gently drawn around a little bit of the edges. I went around my pen pot actually here, but you'll see it's a bit bigger because what happened was I wrote this first and then found that this wasn't big enough. So I placed it on top when it was dry, and then I just left a gap and just gently drew a few lines, and I've made my flowers go around like that. And then once I do my watercolouring around here, I'm going to make sure this is all joined up so that it really shows this circular thing. Now this is obviously the reverse of that, or the opposite of that. I've gone from the edges. When I put my frame mount on, I know that this is slightly generous, so it will go right up to the edges and it'll look really clean. And this one, I haven't decided what I'm going to put in the middle yet, but I will. But I've got some art tutoring to do with some young teenagers who whose parents get me to do their tutoring. So when they come round, I'm going to go through writing that with them so they can see how I can do it, and it inspires them to have the confidence to do it. So I'm going to watercolour this here. I'm going to watercolour this here and here and ink it. I'm also going to use gems, which I love, to bling up these things here. And I know that not everybody likes bling, but many people do. And these are not expensive things. They work out about, depends where you go, but you could get all of these for under £5, and they're already sticky. And what I love about them is you can just literally pick, oh, she says, you can literally, here we go, here they are. Pick one up, as long as you've got fingernails here. Oh, that one didn't work. Oh, that's not very good advert for them, is it? Right, pick one up and put it in position very carefully. I always just make sure I've got it in position first and then press it down. Because once you've done that, you can't really take it off. I could have done the dot first and then put it over the top, I guess. But I think once that's not completely finished, that's going to really bring another dimension to it. I think because it raises it. Obviously, it's going to end up behind a frame, so you can't feel it. But I just think it looks better. There's some more eyes to do here. I'm going to use silver on this one because I think the colours work a bit better. So I'm going to dot all the eyes. I normally do this at the end, but I wanted to show you something that's midway done this time, to show you sort of the back room action, if you will. Just to show you that there are stages to my process. And once the actual thing is finished, I'm rather hoping it'll look pretty impressive. But at this point, it actually looks midway done. A bit like your work. There's so many things I could tell you on this video. Another thing I want to tell you is, when you're making things, just because they don't quite look right as you go along, it doesn't mean they're not going to look right when you finish. You have to have the patience and the conviction and the belief that you're really good at doing stuff. And if you have that, then by the time you finish, it should be a nice surprise when you put it to one side and then go back to it the next day and look at it, and you should feel really proud of what you've done. So I will do another video on this when they're complete, so you can see what happened to them and pictures of when they're framed. But this is what you can do with your newfound skills. Even the smallest frame or the biggest frame. I'll be back with another video soon, and of course, as I said, I'll be back to show you what happens to these. Thanks for watching.